You're meticulous, you know that. Yadiel broke the silence, his voice low and smooth, cutting through the quiet like a razor. Beatrix looked up, meeting his piercing gaze. One might say it's a sign of madness, she replied lightly, a teasing lilt in her tone. You should be worried. I'm clearly a few notes short of a symphony. A flicker of amusement danced in his dark eyes. Madness can be tolerable if it produces results. He stepped into the room, the solid weight of his presence shifting the air between them. She straightened, cheeks flushing under his gaze. Trust me, this is no art gallery, she quipped, trying to maintain a facade of confidence as she brushed a stray hair behind her ear. More like a conspiracy in progress. The kind that leads to unexpected symphonies, he mused, his voice dipping lower. He was teasing, yet the underlying gravity in his posture hinted at deeper layers, complexities she dared not explore just yet. Beatrix followed his lead, her heart racing, laughter bubbling up even as tension lingered between them. Perhaps, she mused, taking a step forward, drawn by the current they both felt but dared not name, though I fear I play the violin when I should be the conductor. Then allow me, Yadiel offered, closing the distance, his confidence radiating like heat from a flame. Lead me into this masterpiece you imagine. The space around them crackled with unarticulated feelings, a whirlwind of chaos often cloaked in the facades they wore. Beatrix's breath quickened as Yadiel's eyes searched hers, pleading through layers of laughter, fear, and unquenchable longing. And in that stillness, when every sound faded into the background, she found trembling strength within herself. Sometimes, a conductor makes the boldest moves, she whispered, each word thick with significance, daring him to understand the depths of her plight. A heartbeat later, Yadiel stepped closer until their breaths mingled, hot and sweet with anticipation. Then let's orchestrate a daring performance, he murmured softly, his hand brushing against hers, igniting a spark that raced up her arm. In a world painted with peril and deception, the unyielding desire tethered them together, a symphony composed of fear and fervor. With a measured, deliberate slowness, Yadiel leaned down, his presence enveloping her as he closed the gap. His lips met hers as if ensnared in the gravity of the moment, the kiss igniting a cacophony of emotions that surged through them. Beatrix melted into the embrace, enveloped in warmth and safety that had eluded her for so long. Time stretched, the kiss deepening as they surrendered to the moment. It was not just a flicker of desire. It surged through their veins like a river seeking its course, carrying all that remained unsaid, their fears, their challenges, the secrets that loomed large. But just as quickly, he pulled back, their breaths mingling in the air, both caught in a delicate dance of vulnerability and fierce resolve. Yadiel's intense gaze locked onto hers. What if the conductor loses the score? Then we'll write our own, she replied, heartbeat thrumming like a drum. He nodded slowly, a spark of understanding igniting in his gaze. They stood on the precipice of their desires, poised to venture deeper into the tangled beauty of affection, a world marked by chaos, yet bound by love. As the silence enveloped them again, Beatrix found clarity in the tumult. So what's next for our symphony? She queried, her voice steadied by a mix of hope and uncertainty. Yadiel's answer lingered, suspended in the stillness. Whatever we decide to compose together. And together they would navigate the winding path that destiny had laid before them, refusing to shy away from the grand crescendo of their lives. Scene 54. Shifting alliances. The grand ballroom of Sinclair Manor buzzed with a mix of velvet-covered laughter and clinking crystal glasses, floating in clouds of smoke from finely rolled cigars. Candlelight flickered off the ornate gold leaf detailing on the high ceilings, illuminating the rich hues of deep crimson drapery. In the far corner, Yadiel Sinclair leaned against the marble slab of the bar, his brow furrowed like troubled waves. He absently twirled a glass of bourbon before him, the amber liquid catching the light, but his mind was miles away, tangled in dark thoughts and shifting loyalties. Beatrix Caldwell, dressed in her tailored suit, a masculine disguise concealing her true self, mingled at the edge of the room. The crowd, which once felt like a stage she understood, now loomed large and uncertain. The laughter around her sounded hollow as she stole glances at Yadiel, her heart racing with an emotion she dared not name yet. The closeness she felt only added weight to the unfolding tension. Do you think we've been surpassed? Beatrix murmured, sliding up beside her friend, Marcus. His jovial demeanor flickered and dimmed like the candle flames around them. Surpassed? You mean like how a turtle surpasses a hare? He quipped, his grin not quite reaching his eyes. We've always been the hares, dear Beatrix, but now. He paused, casting a wary glance towards Yadiel. Even hares can be hunted. Beatrix bit down on her lower lip, trying to suppress the anxiety clawing at her insides. There's whispers, Marcus, whispers around the table. Old alliances are shifting. We can't afford to ignore it. Whispers? The only thing I heard was Patricia Fletcher asking why you don't wear more dresses. He laughed, but it lacked its usual cheer. Right, she shot back, forcing a smile as they watched the scene unfold. The ballroom felt alive but strained, like a tightly wound coil readied for release. But we must be diligent. It's not just clothes that are being stripped away here. Across the room, Yadiel caught her eye. For a moment, the noise of the ballroom faded into the background, and the world around them vanished. He straightened, his instinctive charisma drawing others closer. Yet there was a flicker of vulnerability behind his commanding gaze that wouldn't let her breath smoothly. Could he feel the weight of betrayal as she did? Yadiel, Beatrix breathed softly, edging closer through the swirling mass of silk and laughter, the air between them electric with the weight of unspoken words. Is it them? He muttered, his voice low, heavy with contempt for the gathering. The Collins? I'll not let them undermine my authority. Let's not create a scene, she replied, although her own heart raced with the need to speak her mind. It took all her strength to keep her voice steady. We can't let them see our fear. What if? Fear? He interrupted, a sudden flash of anger sparking in his eyes. We're not afraid. We're cautious. I meant no disrespect, Beatrix countered, frustration bubbling under her calm facade. But we must choose our next steps wisely. Wise? Yadiel leaned in closer, their faces inches apart, fragrances of sandalwood and jasmine mingling. The warmth of his breath sent a shiver down her spine. Wise is what got us here. I want to know where allegiances lie. We need a plan, Beatrix insisted fiercely, stepping back as the tension crackled between them like static electricity. But one slip, one inadequate move could send their plans spiraling. Trust is a luxury we can't afford, Beatrix, especially now, Yadiel rasped, his voice low, glancing over her shoulder at a creeping shadow just behind them. Alliances are only as strong as the people who uphold them. This is about survival. His gaze shifted beyond her, where Veronica, a shrewd associate, whispered fervently with Gerald, another dubious player in their circle. They can turn on us, he added, his focus shifting like the flickering light above, casting shadows on their faces. Then what do we do? She pressed, desperate for a solution. This is our moment. Our plans can't crumble. Exactly, a voice thundered from the other side of the room. It was Terence, Yadiel's closest confidant, his large frame hulking and imposing. The Collins are in position. They could strike tonight. As if the dam broke, the laughter ceased, and every eye turned to the growing fray, an unsettling feeling settling in the air. Beatrix grabbed Yadiel's wrist, squeezing tightly. Dare I say the time for alliances has come and gone? Before he could reply, a powerful fist shattered the silence, and all around them erupted into chaos, shifting alliances swirling like a tempest, demanding its due. Thank you for your loyalty, but the dance has only just begun. And with that, the stakes shifted irrevocably. Scene 55, The Weight of Sacrifice. The night cloaked the sprawling estate of the Sinclair crime family in velvety shadows, casting elongated silhouettes beneath the gleaming chandeliers that hung like jewels from the ceiling. Outside, a low fog rolled over manicured lawns, softening the edges of reality, as if blurring the distinction between potential danger and serene beauty. Inside, the tension was near palpable, thickening the air like the scent of worn leather and polished wood. Yadiel Sinclair stood by the tall windows, his broad shoulders tense and resolute. He gazed out, eyes tracking the wisp of fog creeping along the edge of the garden, as the weight of decisions clung heavily to him. A flickering candle cast dancing shadows on his face, illuminating a careful blend of strength and vulnerability. Clenching his jaw, he turned slightly, caught in a moment of reflection that begged deeper examination. Yadiel, Beatrix said softly, stepping into the light. She wore a fitted suit, her hair neatly tucked beneath a tailored hat, each thread emphasizing her determination. Despite the disguise, she radiated a fierce beauty, one that seemed to wrap around him, pulling him out of his reverie. "What are you thinking?" He turned, his heart twisting like it always did at the mere sight of her. "That you should be safe, that the world we live in could drown you." His voice was low, thick with suppressed emotion, but his gaze revealed more than any words could convey, an endless depth of longing trapped behind walls of guarded resolve. Beatrix stepped closer, the air between them crackling with unspoken connection. "You can't protect me from everything, Yadiel. I'm not a fragile flower in need of saving." Her chin lifted defiantly, the sharpness contrasting with her gentle eyes. "Maybe not," he replied, taking a deliberate step toward her, closing the distance. "But this isn't just about you being strong. It's about what happens when they come for us, when they come for you." The way he spoke her name, laced with worry, sent a shiver through her. "Then we face them together," she insisted, raising her chin higher. Her pulse quickened, the anticipation mingling with the unyielding tension in the room. "You can't just throw yourself into the fire for my sake. It's not a fair trade." Yadiel's gaze softened momentarily, yet a flicker of something darker danced in his expression. "You think you know sacrifice? I've made choices that weigh on my soul heavier than any night's regret." He leaned closer, their breaths mingling in the narrow space. "Love is not a fair game, Beatrix. It is a battlefield." The silence stretched, enveloping them in a cocoon. Beatrix could feel the world falling away, the chatter of camaraderie and distant laughter from the gathering below becoming just an echo. The warmth radiating from his body felt like a shield more potent than any weapon. "You've built this empire," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "You'd burn it all down for me?" He hesitated, a fleeting shadow crossing his face, but his resolve returned swiftly. "Everything," he replied, his voice rough yet resolute, like gravel beneath rich soil. "Every last thing." An emotion surged between them, a heavy current of intimacy and vulnerability. Beatrix could scarcely breathe as the gravity of his declaration sunk into her, stirring feelings that reeked of both fear and exhilaration. "But what if we could find another way, without losing ourselves?" His eyes held hers, an island of calm amidst a turbulent sea. "Can love be unselfish?" he questioned, the hesitation in his tone betraying the battle waging within him. "I've spent years gathering power to protect those I care about. Do you know what it means for someone like me to feel? Can I tell you a secret?" Beatrix said suddenly, lowering her voice conspiratorially, a small smile hinting at mischief. "You're not that different from the rest of us. For all your bravado, there lies a human heart. You shouldn't deny it or push it away." Yadiel's features softened, the tension in his frame yielding just enough for their bodies to almost touch. "And what if that heart stops?" "Then we'll face it together," Beatrix replied, her voice fierce yet tender. "But for now, for this moment, let us not think of endings." As the words hung in the air, a sudden surge of need coursed through him, igniting everything that lay beneath the surface. He could feel warmth radiating from her, the sweet fragrance of jasmine clinging to her clothes, wrapping around him like a lover's embrace. They lingered in that charged moment, the boundaries of their worlds blurring. And for the first time, all those unguarded feelings, sacrifice, longing, and love, intertwined. Yadiel reached out, brushing a stray hair from her face, the gentleness of his touch contrasting the storm brewing around them. "Let's make this a moment worth living for," he murmured, as their eyes locked, capturing a fragment of eternity between them. With that, silence fell, echoing the unsung promises held in the breadth of their shared burdens. They stood there, two souls intertwined, ready to face whatever lay ahead together. Scene 56. Confronting the unknown. Soft moonlight filtered through the thick canopy of the trees surrounding the estate, dappling the ground with silvery patches that flickered like stars fallen from the sky. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming azaleas, mingling with the sharp tang of the impending rain. Beatrix Caldwell stood at the edge of the garden, her heart racing, a symphony of emotions coursing through her as she wrestled with the stab of uncertainty. A sudden rustle broke the tranquil facade, drawing her gaze toward the shadows. "Yadiel," she called, her voice barely a whisper, trembling on the edge of the night. Yadiel Sinclair emerged, his presence both commanding and comforting. He wore a fitted black coat that accentuated his strong frame, the fabric whispering against his movements. His sharp eyes scanned the surroundings, focusing intently on her. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said, the tension in his voice slicing through the stillness. "I can handle myself," Beatrix retorted, folding her arms defiantly, though the quickening of her breath betrayed the rising panic in her chest. "I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for a knight to rescue her." He stepped closer, the faint light catching the angle of his jaw, a silent reminder of their differences, the barriers they both fought. "It's not about weakness. It's about knowing the dangers lurking around every corner." A flicker of vulnerability crossed his face, revealing the turmoil beneath his confident exterior. "You think it's easy for me?" His voice cracked slightly. "You think I can just let you walk into the shadows, knowing you might not come back?" Beatrix's heart fluttered uncomfortably. She sensed his fears, deep and haunting, even as she grappled with her own. "What if I don't care about the shadows? What if I just want to be here with you, to face whatever comes together?" A thunderous roar of laughter echoed through the distance, drawing their attention to the open ballroom where their friends were reveling, oblivious to the dangers swirling in the dark. "It seems everyone else is quite content with their charades," Yadiel scoffed, though the corners of his mouth hinted at a smile. "I'd trade 1,000 pompous waltzes for a moment of candor," she shot back, the playful defiance in her voice masking the tremble. "You're acting like you don't trust me, Yadiel, like I'm some fragile thing that'll shatter if the night gets too dark." "Trust goes both ways, Beatrix." He took a step closer, piercing her with a look that forced her to confront the weight of his unspoken fears. "You hide behind that facade. I don't want to lose you to whatever it is you're playing at." "And yet you keep your own secrets," she replied, her words striking with the force of an arrow. "What are you so afraid of?" The air crackled with tension, the kind that ignited conflict as the distant laughter faded into an anxious silence. "You think you know everything?" He shot back, passion rising in his tone. "How can I trust that you won't betray us when it matters most?" Incensed, Beatrix stepped away, her heart thudding in her ears. "You don't get to define my worth based on your past," she declared, emotion spilling from her voice. "I am not the things I've lost. I'm building something here with you." His face softened. "What if I can't protect you?" he said, vulnerability unfurling like a delicate bloom. "Then we'll protect each other," she replied, the words bubbling with conviction. "Isn't that what love is? Facing the unknown together?" "Love?" he murmured, the glint of disbelief in his eyes wavering. "Do you even know what that means in this world?" "And it terrifies me," Beatrix admitted, the fight leaving her voice, replaced with raw honesty. "But I choose this uncertainty, Yadiel. I choose you." Cautiously, he reached out, his fingers brushing against her wrist, a fleeting touch that spoke volumes. They stood there, suspended in the night, a moment heavy with emotion, yearning, and unspoiled hope. She searched his eyes, desperate for assurance. "So what do we do about it?" With a slight smirk, he finally relaxed, the tension dissipating like smoke. "We keep dancing on deception together," he said, pulling her close, warmth radiating between them. In that instant, the world melted away, the shadows no longer threatening, as they found solace within each other's embrace. Scene 57, Deception and Truth. The grand library of Sinclair Manor was steeped in fading light as dusk settled outside, the rain pattering against the tall windows like 1,000 whispers. A flickering fireplace cast playful shadows on the rows of leather-bound volumes. Beatrix Caldwell stood by the hearth, her fingers absently brushing over the spine of a dusty tome. She looked at Yadiel Sinclair, firelight dancing across his serious brow, and said, "If I'm to trust you, what proof do you have that you're not another layer of deception?" Yadiel pivoted, his gaze piercing yet thoughtful, weighing the gravity of her question. "Trust isn't something handed over, it's earned, just like any secret worth keeping." The air grew thick with tension, punctuated by the crackling flames. Beatrix turned away, her heart pounding as she fought to keep her emotions in check. The golden hue of the fire made the room feel both intimate and dangerous, mirroring the uncertainty that hung between them. "Secrets have a way of unraveling, like the hem of a gown when it's pulled too tight," she said, a touch of humor tangling into her words. Yadiel took a step closer, his expression darkening at her veiled implication. And yet some secrets are the very thread that holds everything together. What if yours is the most dangerous of all? Are you so compelled by danger that you would strip me of my defenses? Beatrix shot back, her defiant spirit flaring to life. You think you can read me like one of these novels, don't you? He chuckled softly, the sound rich and velvety, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Do you want me to? Your disguise is impressive, but every mask has a flaw. Beatrix inhaled deeply, the scent of cedar and aged paper wrapping around her like an embrace. We all wear masks, Yadiel. Yours is just more rugged. Ah, but you wear yours with grace, he countered, his tone softening as he examined her. I admire that, you know. A brief silence stretched between them, the warmth of the fire palpable as their eyes locked. Outside, the rain intensified, a symphony of droplets blurring the world beyond the glass. Suddenly, Beatrix opened her mouth, ready to challenge him once more, but the words caught in her throat at the sight of the vulnerability in his eyes. You see a world on fire, and yet you remain in the trenches. Why? Because I'm afraid, Yadiel confessed, the unexpected honesty crackling in the air. I'm afraid of what happens when the truth comes out, when there's no room left for secrets. What truth? Beatrix whispered, her heart racing as she stepped closer, emboldened by the weight of shared secrets and fears. What don't you want me to discover? Before he could respond, the library door creaked open, revealing Adelia, Beatrix's lifelong friend and Yadiel's trusted advisor. The light shifted around her, bringing with it a breath of cool air that swept into the warmth of their intimate bubble. Yadiel, we have an issue. Not now, Adelia. Yadiel snapped, a hint of impatience surfacing, casting a shockwave through the half-formed connection they had been building. Adelia's brow furrowed, taking a step inside fully. I understand the stakes, but we're running out of time. Thorne's men are gathering, and... Does this always have to interrupt my life? Beatrix interjected, her frustration bubbling over. Some of us are trying to have an important conversation. Important? Adelia's eyes flickered between them, registering the frayed tension. You're in danger, Beatrix. We're all in danger. Within the storm of emotions, Beatrix felt a mix of indignation and worry. I can't just be the damsel in distress, Adelia. Neither can you. Then help me understand how to ensure your safety instead of embroiling yourself in Yadiel's chaos. Adelia shot back, her voice steady yet urgent. Enough. Yadiel's voice rang out like thunder, halting the light-hearted banter that once filled the room. Let's not turn each other into enemies in an already chaotic world. With a sudden understanding sparking in her chest, Beatrix swallowed her pride. Can we work together then? We have to navigate through this, she proposed, glancing between the two. Together, Yadiel echoed, his gaze intense, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside the library seemed dimmer compared to the light illuminating the path they could forge together, yet separate. As the rain continued to beat against the windows, an uneasy truce settled around them, reminding them all that the truth, much like the weather, could change in an instant. Scene 58. Braving the storm together. The storm raged outside, the rhythmic pound of rain against the window punctuating the stillness of the room. Yadiel Sinclair stood at the ornate glass panes of his penthouse, the flickering candles casting shadowy silhouettes across his chiseled face. Clenching his jaw, he pulled his gaze from the tempest. Within him, a storm brewed far more violent than the rain lashing against the world outside. Beatrix Caldwell entered, her heart racing not just from the weather, but also from the unrelenting tension between them. Dressed in a tailored waistcoat, the fabric clung to her, a reminder of her dual identity, both bold and hidden. Her resolve faded beneath his intense gaze, sparkling with unspoken words. You're avoiding the inevitable, she said, her voice steady, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. Am I? Yadiel turned, a faint glimmer of cockiness threading through his tone. He stepped closer, the sharp scent of cedarwood and musk enveloping them like a thick fog. What's inevitable is that we're out of time. The Parisians are not the only ones who will come for us. She stepped back, a shiver coursing through her as the wind howled outside, mirroring the chaos between them. And you think ignoring it will help? We can't hide forever, Yadiel, she exclaimed, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Hide? So you figured me out, he said, his lips curling into a sardonic smile. What's next? Pretend to be someone you're not. Beatrix drew in a sharp breath, raw irritation igniting in her. You think I wanted any of this? It's your world that coerced me into a disguise, your people who threatened to expose us both. His eyes narrowed, the storm outside growing in intensity. What do you know of my world? You may wear the clothes of a man, Beatrix Caldwell, but you cannot claim the strength that comes with it. Before she could respond, a sharp thunderclap followed by a flash of lightning illuminated the room. In that brief moment of brightness, Yadiel's brooding facade cracked, revealing vulnerability. That flicker ignited the space between them, and Beatrix took a hesitant step forward. Maybe I've learned more than you think, she murmured, a softness creeping into her voice. Her heart raced not from anger, but from the throaty tension threading their fates together. Suddenly, their burgeoning intimacy was shattered by the abrupt ring of Yadiel's phone. He cursed under his breath and let it hiss into silence. If they think I'm weak, if they think they can take you from me, then you'll do what? Beatrix challenged, raising an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. Fight fire with fire? Because we both know that you don't thrive on weakness. Beneath her bravado, she worried for him. Their surroundings teetered on the edge of calamity. Yadiel stepped closer, his breath warm and close. I will do what needs to be done. For you, for us. His intensity was palpable, tension coiling like a viper between them. As the rain poured harder, each droplet a reminder of the world looming. The thrill of risk impelled her closer, a magnetic pull igniting a fire in Beatrix's chest. And if we lose, Yadiel, what then? She whispered, inches apart, fear and desire blurring the lines between them. Then we fight together. If I go down, he replied, his voice low and resonant, you will either follow or break free from this life. Their glances melted into something more profound, filled with muted emotions. Rain battered the window, yet within them a different kind of storm raged, a battle of wills, pride, and an undeniable connection stirring beneath the surface. And then it happened. Under the shelter of thunder's roar, their worlds collided. Beatrix leaned in, her resolve crumbling like cookie crumbs. Their lips brushed together, gentle yet electric. The kiss ignited everything pent up between them, fear, anger, yearning, and blossomed into something transformative, raw and beautiful, like a flower eager to bloom in the heart of a tempest. Pulling back, breathless, she whispered, Together, then. Yadiel smirked, the edge of tension still singing in the air. Together. And as thunder clapped outside, they stood united against the storm, two souls entwined amidst the dark clouds of their fates. Scene 59. A dance on the edge. The moon hung low over the city, its silvery glow washing over the opulence of the Caldwell estate, where laughter and music echoed like whispers of danger cloaked in elegance. An array of guests, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the night's surface, swirled in a waltz of gaiety, sepia-toned images of wealth and grandeur. The scent of roses mingled with a lingering, yet elusive hint of gunpowder, a reminder of the chaos that had seeped into their lives. In the shadow of a grand piano, where muted notes lingered like ghosts, Beatrix Caldwell pulled her satin waistcoat tighter, her heart racing against the cacophony of bustling skirts and clattering goblets. She looked no less than a gentleman, a carriage she wore as both armor and suffocation. The laughter around her felt muffled, a distant echo as she stole a moment to breathe. Yadiel, she whispered, finding him a mere few feet away, his presence warm and magnetic. He leaned against a marble pillar, gazing out at the swirling sea of guests with a predatory grace, his eyes shadowed but alive with a dangerous light. Do you think we're truly safe here? Safe? He glanced at her, the muscle in his jaw tightening. The moment we walked into this gathering, the stakes elevated. His voice carried the weight of unspoken truths wrapped in tension. Beatrix smiled wryly, a defense mechanism against the trepidation gnawing at her. A lovely party. I suppose that masks the truth well enough. Truth is a fickle companion, he countered, stepping closer, his warmth radiating against her chilled skin. And in our world, it rarely shows its face at all. The thrum of the music swelled around them, tempting the air with its lilting cadence. As couples twirled, Beatrix felt the weight of their irreversible choices loom like a specter. You can't ignore what's at stake, Yadiel. We're living on borrowed time. He stepped back as if struck, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. What do you want me to do, Beatrix? Throw caution to the wind and pray for a miracle? Would that be so reckless? She shot back, her pulse quickening. Or perhaps it's a necessary step for the truth to unfurl. Their argument hung in the air, taut and electric. The masked intentions of their worlds, the crime that tethered them, seemed to plague every turn. Just then, the music morphed into a passionate tango, colors bursting and colliding like emotions battling for dominance. With a sudden, impulsive movement, Beatrix stepped closer, breaking the barrier between argument and resolution. Just one dance, she implored, vulnerability etched into her voice. She extended her hand, her heart pounding inside the disguise she wore. Yadiel hesitated before taking her hand, the connection igniting something incendiary within. A dangerous offer, he murmured, though his eyes sparkled with mischief. Then let's dance on the edge. She smiled, a light breaking through the clouds of tension between them. As they slid into the rhythm of the tango, their bodies moving as one, a tightrope act of intimacy and restraint, each step echoed with the unspoken desperation of their circumstance. The world around them melted into a blur. Each twirl and dip became a fleeting moment of rebellion against the reality demanding their attention. Yet in the midst of the swirling gaiety, jealousy bubbled beneath the surface. A fleeting glance from Emery, Yadiel's childhood friend and rival, sent a crackle through the air. He sauntered past with a devil-may-care attitude, his eyes flitting toward Beatrix with a hint of amused derision. Look at you two, all cozy in plain view. His smirk was enough to inebriate the moment. Keep your eyes to yourself, Emery, Yadiel snapped, his temper flaring. This isn't a theatrics show. But Emery laughed, throwing a sun-drenched charm into their tangled web. Oh, come now, lighten up. I'm merely acknowledging how well you wear that guise, Beatrix. The fleeting moment of levity shattered the tension, and Beatrix felt her cheeks heat. Your compliments are not needed, she replied, maintaining composure with a breathless undertone. In that heartbeat of irritation, amidst the swirling figures and echoes of laughter, Yadiel leaned in, his breath tickling her ear. Ignore him, if he only knew. And what is it you want me to know? She asked, teasing yet sincere, a dare cloaked in allure. His response hung in the air, heavy with desire, that tonight might be one of our last chances to dance like this. The gravity of his words resonated as they twirled, bodies intertwined, worlds colliding with an illicit thrill. In that moment, they both understood the risks, a chiaroscuro of light and shadow. Perhaps love thrived in this chaos, even on the razor's edge of ruin. Scene 60, The Heart's Resolve. The candlelit room was suffused with shadows, casting dancing reflections on the character-laden walls of Yadiel's private study. The scent of aged whiskey mingled with faint traces of lavender from a bouquet Beatrix had placed on the desk, an unconscious marker of their shifting dynamic. The quickening cadence of their heartbeats claimed the space, reminding them of the mounting stakes surrounding their clandestine affair. Yadiel stood by the window, the evening horizon ablaze with streaks of burnt orange and dusky purple. The city below pulsed with life, but in this isolated cocoon, they were the only two souls present, in a world that felt both exhilarating and dangerously on edge. The full moon illuminated the intricate curls of his dark hair and the contours of his face, revealing a vulnerability that threatened to crack through the ironclad exterior he maintained. Do you ever think about what happens next? Beatrix's voice was softer than the breeze that swept into the room, yet there was purpose behind her words, an anchor amidst the chaos. She leaned casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, her dark curls framing her delicate features like a lioness at rest, exuding both elegance and strength. Most of the time, I hope for my enemies to say, I underestimated him, he replied, his tone sardonic, though the hint of forced bravado didn't completely obscure the worry simmering beneath. He turned from the window, eyes narrowing, revealing more than just determination. They held fear, shadowed by resolve. And sometimes, she pressed, stepping closer, her scent, a heady blend of jasmine and something tangy wrapped around him. A stifling heat filled the air as tension hummed between them. Sometimes, I think of you. His voice softened as he locked eyes with her, revealing a truth even he didn't expect to utter. The space closed between them, beating like the dual rhythm of their hearts caught in a perpetual dance. Yadiel moved, a step toward her, uncharacteristically unsure. In all this, amidst the gambits and pitfalls, you are the only certainty. Beatrix's breath hitched slightly, the weight of his admission settling like a thick fog between them. She searched his gaze, brimming with questions, yet grounded in raw emotion. Do you feel that we're rushing? A brave softness edged her teasing tone away, replaced by an earnestness that betrayed her, momentarily dropping the mask of humor. Rushing implies that we have time, Beatrix, he said, a shadow of vulnerability flashing across his face. Do we? Those piercing eyes held hers captive as despair mingled with hope. An intoxicating concoction Tantalus might have yearned for. Unable to hold that intense gaze any longer, Beatrix grinned. If we end up rushing toward doom, at least we'll face it fabulously. They both chuckled, the sound like a burst of light in the dim room. In the flickering candlelight, everything felt momentarily perfect, until reality encroached. Without breaking the connection they wove through their emotions, trapped between laughter and the heaviness of their fates. The air thickened as seriousness crept back in. The world outside remained perilous. Hostile eyes were ever watching. We will fight for this, Yadiel asserted, a statement that brimmed with sincerity. For us, for what we could be, if only we were given a chance. Then let's not waste another moment. Beatrix sidled closer, their foreheads nearly touching now, breath mingling in the space between them, a visceral awareness that they were standing on the precipice of something great and terrifying. Yadiel reached up gently, brushing a stray curl behind her ear. Beatrix Caldwell, I don't want a life without you. His voice hung heavy in the air, an oath written into the fibers of their beings, a promise undying. And then, like a force of nature, they came together, lips catching in heated fervor. It was a kiss that spoke of longing, of battles fought unseen, and of a future worth all their strength, drawing them closer still, hearts synchronized in a tempo only they understood amidst the chaos. It was fiery and breathtaking, their connection unbreakable, even as the darkness encroached beyond the fragile walls of this sacred moment. No words remained necessary. The kiss a bridge toward an uncertain future that shimmered with the thrill of commitment and shared resolve, a silent consensus that whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one. And in that flickering candlelight, there were no shadows, only the fire of passion igniting the heart's resolve. Scene 61, a shattered piece. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, gilding the edges of the meticulously manicured gardens behind Caldwell Manor with a golden hue. A storm was brewing, the heavy scent of rain mingling with the blossoming jasmine, a fragrant tension thickening the air as Yadiel Sinclair leaned heavily against an ornately carved stone pillar, his voice low and laced with urgency. I can't trust you, Beatrix, he said, an intensity in his gaze that burned deeper than the setting sun. Beatrix Caldwell, in her tailored waistcoat and trousers, held her ground, her breath hitching as she met his steely eyes. You don't have the luxury of doubt right now, Yadiel. The news from the docks. A shatter of glass from the nearby conservatory drew their attention, interrupting her. Her heart raced as shadows spilled across the garden, the looming threat palpable. Did you hear that? Yadiel's posture shifted, muscles coiling like a spring, ready to react, revealing a side of him not often seen, an edge of vulnerability cloaked in danger. I heard it, Beatrix replied, her voice barely above a whisper, yet firm. The urgency in Yadiel's gaze made it clear they weren't alone. She felt her pulse quicken, an intoxicating mix of fear and adrenaline powering her resolve. Stay close, Yadiel ordered, taking a step towards the sound, his instincts taking over as he pushed aside the uncertainty threading through their conversation. Whatever it is, we need to confront it head on. Beatrix nodded, her heart racing as they ventured cautiously toward the conservatory, the air thick with humidity and the promise of rain. The wind howled, rustling the leaves, mirroring the tumult of their surroundings and the chaos of their lives. The shattered glass crunched beneath their feet as they crossed into the dimly lit interior, where the air smelled of damp earth and petrichor. A figure lurked amidst the rich foliage, cloaked in darkness, breathing heavily. Who's there? Yadiel's voice echoed like a gunshot, sharp and commanding. A man stepped out, holding up his hands in mock surrender. Easy there, Sinclair, he laughed, but there was an edge to it. You don't want to do anything rash. Jeremiah? Beatrix gasped, her heart momentarily stalling in her chest. The man had been a trusted ally, respected within their circles, but the sheen of desperation in his eyes hinted at betrayal. A change of heart, perhaps? Jeremiah's grin faltered, replaced with something darker. I overheard a conversation you two might find enlightening. What are you saying? Yadiel's anger flared, his fists curling into tight balls at his sides. There's a reckoning coming, and I'd hate for you both to be on the wrong end of it. Jeremiah's eyes darted between them, the tension thickening with each word. You're not just fighting for your lives anymore. It's bigger than that. What do you mean? Beatrix stepped forward, swallowing her fear as she tried to peel back the layers of his treachery. New allegiances are being forged, some not of your choosing. Jeremiah stepped back, edging toward the door, his voice lowering conspiratorially. Those you trust may not have your best interests at heart. Yadiel stepped closer, a predator closing in on its prey. You're talking riddles, Jeremiah. Speak plainly. Jeremiah snickered, then glanced towards the garden, where the first drops of rain began to patter against the roof. It's time you learned. The crime families are ready to align against you, and those closest to you might be pushing the dagger deeper into your back. Is this a warning or an invitation to betrayal? Yadiel's voice dripped with a dangerous calm, both threatening and resolute. Who knows? Jeremiah shrugged, a mock innocence playing on his lips. Just a simple merchant trying to keep his neck out of the noose. But you might want to reconsider who you call friend. As the shadows shifted ominously around them, Beatrix felt the tension snap, leaving her breathing heavy. Rain lashed against the stone outside, echoing the turmoil brewing within. She glanced up at Yadiel, whose expression darkened, the weight of impending conflict settling over them like a looming storm. Take care of yourself, Sinclair, Jeremiah said with feigned compassion, before retreating into the night, leaving the two of them breathing heavily in the suffocating silence. Can we trust anyone? Beatrix gasped, feeling the walls close in, desire and anxiety intertwining. Trust is a luxury we might not have anymore. Yadiel's eyes burned as he regarded her. The connection ignited an electric pulse between them, fierce and volatile, the desire to survive merging with a deeper longing that neither dared fully acknowledge. Beatrix nodded, anchoring herself in the reality of their situation. Then we need to figure out our next move. Yes, Yadiel agreed, stepping closer, the space between them crackling with unspoken possibilities. Together. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, they stood on the precipice of change, each moment stretching into infinity as rain began to pour, creating a chaotic symphony around them. Trust had shattered, but somewhere within the rubble, a desperate hope flickered. Scene 62, Dangerous Games of Power. The evening sun dipped low over the sprawling cityscape of Riverton, casting long shadows through the tall glass windows of the Sinclair estate. A golden glow suffused the richly decorated ballroom, where laughter intermingled with the clinking of wine glasses and the soft strains of a string quartet. Yet beneath the surface glamour lurked an undercurrent of tension, thick enough to slice. Yadiel Sinclair stood against the dark, polished wood of the mantel, surveying the celebration with a hawkish gaze. His presence was magnetic, drawing attention even as he preferred to remain an ominous figure in the background. Tonight, however, every movement felt choreographed in a dance of shadows. Whispers of new threats reverberated through the room like an echoing heartbeat. The delicate balance he had painstakingly constructed teetered, and the scent of expensive perfume mingled unsettlingly with a hint of betrayal. "Sweetheart, you look positively brooding," chided Felicity, a vivacious partygoer with cascading curls and a penchant for mischief. Her brightly colored gown sparkled as she caught the light, her laughter ringing like silver bells. "Are you planning a revolution, or do you perhaps just need a good drink?" Yadiel shot her a pointed look. "Felicity, if we were hunting revolutionaries, I'd at least prefer my surroundings to be less festive. Glaring pearls and laughter won't keep us safe." "Then perhaps you should smile more, my dear. A charming smile might divert would-be assassins," she teased, raising her glass dramatically. But Yadiel's focus was elsewhere. Beatrix Caldwell, disguised yet undeniably formidable, stood across the room, her gaze flickering over the assembly. She was clad in a tailored blazer that hinted at an elegance beneath her androgynous facade, though tonight she painted an image of fortitude mixed with uncertainty. Her concealed emotions reflected a multitude of unsaid words, and behind her vivacious demeanor lurked a vulnerability that was achingly familiar to Yadiel. He longed to bridge the distance between them, but the thrill of their charged alliance was a dangerous game of power, one they could scarcely afford to misplay. As she approached, tension crackled between them like static. "You're not planning to reveal our little arrangement tonight, are you?" Beatrix's voice was low, her eyes scanning the crowd, alert and wary. Yadiel leaned closer, the flickering candlelight dancing off his sharply defined features. "And give them more ammunition to use against us? There are too many eyes here." The sharpness of his tones enveloped her, and for a fleeting moment, she saw a glimpse of the man behind the mask, wounded, yet fiercely determined. "You know, hiding in plain sight wasn't exactly how I envisioned my evening," she murmured, a teasing lilt breaking through the seriousness, though her pulse quickened as words slipped between them. "Spare me your poetic whims, Beatrix. This isn't a game." He held her gaze unwaveringly, but the tension was palpable. "Yet here we are, playing it anyway," she said, her voice rising just above a whisper as she brushed his shoulder intentionally. Their chemistry ignited the air around them, and a flicker of laughter surged through the crowd, momentarily distracting them from the heavy atmosphere. Just as their connection began to solidify, a commotion broke out near the entrance. Heavy footsteps echoed across the marble floor, and the atmosphere shifted like a storm cloud rolling in. The crowd parted, revealing a group of newcomers, led by Vincent, the Bull Kavanaugh, an antagonist with sharp instincts and sharper words. "Yadiel!" Vincent's voice boomed, and with it came an electric tension that crackled in the air. "It seems our little party's missing a vital guest," he sneered, pointing toward Beatrix, his eyes full of accusation. Yadiel straightened instinctively, the wariness shifting into a defensive stance. "You're out of line, Kavanaugh," he growled, the low rumble of his voice promising retribution. Felicity stepped forward, her mischievous grin vanishing. "What do you want, Vincent? I was just recounting your last culinary disaster. I didn't realize it was that time of year again." Laughter rippled through the guests, but it faced Vincent's icy glare head-on. "I'm afraid this is personal now. Hand over the girl, Sinclair, and maybe you'll keep your head," Vincent declared, advancing forward. "Don't you dare speak to him like that." Beatrix interjected, her voice a sudden tempest rising above the murmurs. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. "I'm not a pawn for your pathetic games." In an instant, weapons were drawn, tension escalating as shadows shifted ominously. Yadiel's heart raced. "We can resolve this without bloodshed," he said slowly, his voice a calculated serenity against the chaos. Vincent's laughter was harsh, mirroring the severity of the moment. "We both know blood will spill, Sinclair." Across the ballroom, anticipation grew thick as Beatrix stepped beside Yadiel. "Then let's dance, shall we?" she said boldly, hinting at a shared understanding even amidst looming threats. Yadiel's gaze softened toward her, the chaos momentarily falling away. Together they faced the storm. The night's games had only just begun. Scene 63. Embodied love. The dimly lit room swam with the afterglow of their argument, tension hanging like a heavy curtain. Yadiel leaned against the ornate mahogany desk, his fingers tracing the intricate patterns of the wood, as if grounding himself against the tempest swirling around them. "How could you doubt me?" His voice was low but strained, the flickering candlelight reflecting in his dark, intense eyes. Beatrix stood at the window, arms crossed, the weight of her own insecurities pressing down on her like a leaden cloak. The soft hum of the bustling street below filtered in through the glass, mirroring the chaos in her mind. "You can't expect me to understand the choices you make, Yadiel," she shot back, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking. "You live in shadows. How am I to know what's real?" He stepped closer, the scent of sandalwood and old leather surrounding him, accentuating the palpable charge in the air. "And you?" he challenged, his brow furrowing. "You conceal yourself in layers, hiding behind a facade. It's hardly fair to judge my world when you won't reveal yours." Silence enveloped them, a thick quilt of unspoken emotions. She turned to face him, her heart racing. His accusation gnawed at her, flicking a vulnerable switch she had long tried to keep at bay. "You think I want this disguise?" she whispered, the candor in her voice cutting through the tension like glass. "Every day is a struggle to keep the truth hidden, and every glance is a reminder of what I can't have." "Then strip away your mask," he replied, lower now, his voice almost a murmur. "What do you fear more, the truth or the consequences?" Their eyes locked, a fierce battle of wills sparking as the air crackled with electricity. In that moment, she saw him, not the menacing crime lord, but Yadiel, the man wrestling with his own demons. The moment of vulnerability compelled her closer, her breath quickening. "And you, what about your truth?" she challenged, her voice trembling slightly. "You can't hide behind your power forever." He moved within an inch of her, the warmth radiating off him, pulling her like a moth to flame. "Maybe." He hesitated, the storm brewing in his eyes reflecting the tumult beneath his smooth veneer. "But this power is all I have. Until it's gone," Beatrix murmured, the truth of his situation hanging between them like a ghost. The silence deepened, heavy with acknowledgement. Then, as if pulled by an unseen force, Beatrix stepped forward, closing the gap that had felt insurmountable moments before. She reached out a hand, hesitating, then pressed her palm against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingers. "You don't have to face this alone," she said softly, the warmth of her comfort pouring into him like sunlight breaking through gray clouds. With a deft movement, he captured her hand and brought it to his lips, brushing against her skin with the gentlest of gestures. "And you don't have to hide," he replied, the faintest flicker of hope igniting in his tone. As the stars twinkled outside, a chaotic world swirled beyond their pain. But inside this room, everything quieted. It was just them, two souls floundering through a life of darkness and danger, now on the cusp of something transcendent. The closeness ignited a fire within her, a burning desire to trust him completely. "I should have believed you," Beatrix confessed, her voice barely a whisper, trembling under the weight of her admission. "I thought the shadows would consume you." Yadiel's hand cupped her face, rough yet tender, his thumb brushing against her cheek, in a movement dripping with raw emotion.